The Italians, oh, they sure know how to make a good looking bike, don't they? And that's definitely the case here with the brand new Wilier Filante SLR. It's the latest in a long line of aero race bikes from the historic Italian bike company. And this latest version is so improved that they had to come up with a new name for it. They called it the Filante, which is Italian for streamlined. And that's an apt name given how the bike looks and also how it rides. So before I go into the frame details on the bike, let me give you a taste of how it rides. It's light, fast and immediate. The Filante sure has the speed and ride quality to back up its sheer beauty. It's clearly fast in my hands and easily compared to the best aero bikes I've yet ridden, like a Trek Madone or Specialized Venge. But compared to most aero bikes, it's a lack of aggression and hard edge ride that most stands out when riding this Italian stallion. There's a level of smoothness that means even on my roughest roads, the sort that have you cursing the highways authority are dealt with extremely well. I was genuinely surprised. The level of comfort here is astounding. And it's this combination of speed and ride manners that really makes it stand out. The handling, which is everything you expect from a race bike, sharp and direct steering, which along with a high level of stiffness for sprinting and climbing makes for a very exciting and thrilling bike to ride. You can smash it around a demanding road race circuit or taking the views with a century distance ride. It strikes a good balance between the two extremes. It's an easy bike to fall in love with. So, how does the Filante SLR deliver such an impressive ride? Let's take a closer look at the frame and details. Let's start with how the bike looks, and in my opinion, to my eyes at least, it's a beautiful bike and quite probably the prettiest road bike you can buy right now, especially in this lovely velvet gloss red. If I was a pro rider and my team was sponsored by Wilier, I'd be a very happy boy indeed. I'd be the envy of the entire pro peloton and make all my mates at the cafe stop jealous. It's simply a good looking bike, but there's more than beauty alone. There's a lot of interesting tech details on this bike. So let me point out what I knew about the bike compared to the previous bike. Let's start at the front of the bike because frontal surface area is really important with an aero road bike like this one. And we can see a very skinny tapered head tube with custom headset bearings, and that has allowed the company to put all the cables and hoses inside the frame via their own one-piece carbon fibre handlebar and stem. So no exposed cables, no exposed hoses, very neat. All the cables and hoses are internally routed, only sprouting out down by the brake caliper at the front and rear. The other big change on this new bike, and quite a departure from most other aero road bikes, with a few exceptions, is how widely spaced apart the fork blades are. Now the idea here is to move the fork blades away from the wheel and tyre when it's spinning at speed, and that reduces the turbulent air between the fork and the wheel. Now it's not a new concept, we've seen bike brands do this in the past, and I've spoken to aerodynamic engineers in the past who have said this is the way to really decrease drag on an aero road bike. And this idea of moving the frame away from the spinning wheels is replicated at the back, with the dropped rear stays also moved away from the rear wheel. Another benefit of the widely spaced fork blades and rear stays is generous tyre clearance, with this bike taking up to a 30mm wide tyre, and these are 28 fitted, and there's plenty of space between the rubber and the carbon. Plenty of other aero details on this bike as well. And while we have the usual cam tail aero profile, where I take a teardrop and cut the tail off to reduce the weight and improve the stiffness, all the edges have been softened and smoothed over. And the idea there is to improve how the bike responds or handles in a wide range of wind directions. In the early days of aero bikes, they were concerned with how they handled in a 0-degree yaw angle, so the wind coming straight ahead. But as you know, here in the real world, the wind comes at you from many different directions, lots of crosswinds, and early aero bikes were a bit lively in crosswind, shall we say. Wilier have really focused on making this bike a usable, real-world, everyday bike. So really soften all the edges to ensure the bike is easier to handle in crosswinds when the wind's coming at different angles. So it also gives the bike a really nice appearance as well. So no hard edges anywhere, looks really smooth. Also smooth is the seat clamp area,
which you might remember on the Zero SLR had a small nipple, which caused quite a lot of debate in the comment section. But now it's been smoothed off and it's in line with the rear stay, so I really like that, much better. And we have a small rubber collar around the seat post and a bit of anti-slip on the carbon post. But one detail I don't like, I mean, while I generally love the paint job and the graphics, we still have torque settings on the top tube, which you can't remove, which is really, really annoying. So yeah, mine is a point there for that unnecessary detail. So like that Zero SLR I rode last year, which was disc brakes only and electronic group sets only, it's the same here. So only disc brakes and only electronic group sets at the moment, but I'm sure there might be an SL version which will take a mechanical group set. So we have flat mount brake calipers, 12mm through axles, but they're using the Mavic speed release, which I really like because they're really easy to get the wheels out quickly and easily. So it's easy to heap praise on this Filante SLR, but one area where I can't praise it so highly is the price. It is an expensive bike. Now, prices are an issue at the moment. At the time of making this video, this bike cost £9,270, but there probably will be price increases due to Brexit here in the UK with import duties and other costs. So the price may be going up, but I would recommend, if you like the look of the bike and you do fancy buying one, check with your local Wilier dealer, I'll put a link down below, and have a chat to them and see what the price is coming out at the moment. It's also worth adding that there's a range of builds starting from Ultegra Di2 to SRAM Red ETAP Access and also a Campag Super Record EPS as well. But here we have a fairly standard build, although admittedly a high-end standard build, comprising the benchmark Shimano Dual Race Di2 electronic shifting and hydraulic disc brake group set, which is hard to fault. Looks good, works well. What can you say that hasn't been said about the group set before? And then we have the company's own carbon wheels, which are 42mm deep and 19mm wide internally, and they're clincher tubeless using a hooked bead profile with 28mm wide Viatura Corsa tubular tyres fitted. So these are essentially the same as the tubular wheels I had on the Zero SLR, but a bit heavier. The tubular version coming in about 1300 grams. These are about 1600 grams, so a bit heavier, but for me, a few extra grams for tubeless compatibility is no problem in my book. I've already mentioned the handlebar, which is wrapped in Pro logo bar tape, nice and grippy, a nice tactile feel, and a very comfy Cell Italia SLR saddle with a nice cutout channel and a nice profile. Works really well for me. And this bike is a size large, and on the scales is a tickle over 7 kilos. So not much above that UCI weight limit of 6.8 kilos. And I reckon with some lighter wheels, may throw some lightweights on there, you get down to 6.8, maybe even lighter, 6.6 might be doable, which for an aero disc brake bike is remarkable. And that weight or lack of weight is really noticeable on my local climbs and doesn't hold you back at all, whether it's a long steady climb with switchback turns or a 20% wall of a climb where you're grunting up it with all your might. So it climbs exceptionally well, doesn't hold you back at all. And for the pros who are riding climbs of a certain gradient at a fairly savage speed, it has to be said, the aero benefits are really going to count for them on those sort of climbs. Maybe not so much for us mere mortals, but on a shallower gradient climb, you can definitely feel the benefits of an aero bike over a non-aero bike. So the comfort of the bike is very impressive indeed, and it's due to a number of factors. Now the first one, of course, are the wide tubular tyres, and these Viatura Corsa tyres are an excellent choice. Good ride quality, nice fast rolling, one of my favourite tyres at the moment, and tubeless allows me to run low pressures for my body weight. Then there's the carbon fibre layup with some quite clever tech inside the layup of the carbon fibre designed to help the bike absorb vibrations. There aren't many details about that actual tech, but that's one of their magic sauce ingredients. And then we have the fit and position. So size large, I'm 5'11", and the fit is bob on perfect. Now carbon handlebars like this are normally a compromise, either too short, too narrow, or the opposite. But luckily for me, this is bob on perfect. We're a 114 length stem and a 420 wide handlebar, but they're 5 sizes, 5 dimensions, so you can customize the handlebar to suit your frame size. And then the stem isn't slammed. I've got quite a few spaces there, and they're easy to remove as well, so you can slam it if you want, but I found it okay, a little bit higher than I would normally run. And the important thing about this bike to share with you is that it allows me to maintain an aero position, so a nice hunched down aero position with my elbows tucked in for long periods of time. Now, there's no point having a super aero aggressive bike and setup if you can't hold an aero position long enough to really benefit from the aero. But this bike does allow me to do that, and that's why I get the maximum performance out of the bike.
All that clever frame design and high level of specification is certainly impressive and results in a very quick bike on the road. Wilier shares no aero testing data. I'd love to see it in a wind tunnel group test with all the other contenders in this class. But despite the lack of that data, on familiar roads and using my own data, it's clearly up there with the fastest aero bikes in my opinion. But it's a fact you can enjoy all the speed without being beaten up on rough roads. That is a real revelation here. There just isn't the same level of feedback you would normally expect on an aero bike. And it's smooth not just compared to other aero bikes, but compared to the likes of a Giant TCR or Specialized Tarmac, to name 2 examples. And this is where aero bikes are becoming so much more usable on an everyday basis in the real world. And in its desire to deliver a bike that is usable and accessible, Wilier has clearly succeeded. Then there's the weight, or shall I say lack of weight. At 7.1 kilograms, it's not much heavier than many lightweight disc brake road bikes, yet you get all the aero benefits on offer here. And when the gradient gets so steep that the aero benefit peters out, the frame, fork and handlebar have ample stiffness to let you power up without any sense of the bike flexing underneath you. It's over undulating terrain with a variety of climbs, steep, shallow, fast descents, rough roads, that the Wilier Filante SLR just shines so well. It's a usable and likeable bike that you can ride every day, everywhere, and for as long as you have energy in your legs. You can have your tiramisu and eat it.
So I really like the Filante SLR. I love the blend of speed and smoothness. That makes it a really nice, enjoyable and usable bike on a daily basis. From flat out race-like efforts to steady cruising, country lane, long distance riding, it's just a really nice all-round package that will appeal to people who want to go racing, but also equally people who aren't going racing but want the speed of an aero race bike, but want to ride at a more leisurely pace, but still get the benefits of an aero race bike. And I also love the fact you're not really getting a weight penalty over that Zero SLR I rode last year. And for me personally, if it's a choice of that Zero SLR or the Filante SLR, well, it'd be an easy one really. I'd take the aero bike because the frame on its own is 18-19 grams heavier. The whole bike isn't much heavier. You can easily go lighter with lighter wheels if you wanted. And in my opinion, it's a better looking bike. I think they've done a really good job with the bike. It looks fast, it looks sleek, it just looks beautiful. And the way it rides is up there with some of the best road bikes you can currently buy. So yeah, I'd choose this bike over that Zero SLR. And against other aero race bikes in this category, well, definitely this one goes right to the very top of my list. It's up there with some of the best bikes I've yet ridden. So yeah, Wilier really knocked it out of the park this year. They've been on a bit of a roll the last few years, making some really good bikes. And I think this is the best bike they've made in their 100+ year history, which is quite a bold statement, I know. So there we go then, my review of the Filante SLR, a bike that's both beautiful to look at and beautiful to ride. And if you're lucky enough to be able to afford one, you'll definitely enjoy the way the bike rides. So let me know what you think of the bike down below. Is it a bike that floats your boat or not? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. If you enjoyed watching the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all again next time. Thank you so much for watching.